Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavat pranams. Jai Srila Prabhupada. I hope you are all doing well. Welcome to this edition of Bhagavad Gita as it is Bite-Sized Talks. And as you know, we get together every now and then to read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita as it is together. And then we read Srila Prabhupada's purport or commentary on that verse, and then I speak very briefly on it. These talks are not about me talking, they're about us together hearing from Lord Krishna himself through the words of the Bhagavad Gita and hearing from Srila Prabhupada himself through his commentaries, his purports on the Bhagavad Gita. And because we have been doing these for so long, you would have also picked up that very strong message that we have a very keen preference for only reading from the original 1972 Macmillan edition of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. That is our way of really showing honor and dedication to Srila Prabhupada. And as you'll also be aware, we also sell copies of original Bhagavad Gitas. If you go to the Hare Krishna Project website, the link will be on this YouTube channel or this Facebook page, depending on how you're watching this talk. If you click on shop, go to Srila Prabhupada's books, and you will see the vast array of Srila Prabhupada's books that we have for sale. And also, you do know that we distribute these to schools as well. We're obviously not doing them at the moment because here in Britain, it is the school holidays. So we're having a bit of a break. But we get together, we read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, and then I talk about it very briefly. Okay, this is actually the 17th time we have done this together. The 17th time we have got together. Yes, I am keeping a record. And this week we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 1972 edition, chapter 17, verse 23. I know most of you follow this often, but just in case there are any newcomers or beginners, the Bhagavad Gita is a record of a dialogue, a record of a conversation that occurred thousands of years ago, but it still has a lot of relevance for us today. A conversation between Lord Krishna, God himself, and his dearmost friend and disciple Arjuna. And they're having a conversation in the middle of a battlefield, of all places. And Arjuna is asking Krishna all sorts of questions. And actually, it's the type of questions that we may still have today, such as, what is the meaning of life? What is my duty? Where am I from? What happens when I physically die? Tell me about the relationship that I have with you, God, the supreme person, the supreme being. And those are the questions that we ask today. So the Bhagavad Gita is still completely relevant to us and how we live our lives in the 21st century. And here in chapter 17, the chapter is called The Divisions of Faith. And Lord Krishna is talking about the three modes of material nature. I'll come on to that a bit later on after I've read from the Gita. So Lord Krishna says in chapter 17, verse 23, from the beginning of creation, the three syllables om, tat, sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, or Brahman. They were uttered by brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. And this is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada's purport or commentary on that verse. It has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into three categories: the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But whether first class, second class, or third class, they are all conditioned, contaminated by the material modes of nature. When they are aimed at the Supreme, Om Tat Sat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Eternal, they become means for spiritual elevation. In the scriptural injunctions, such an objective is indicated. These three words, Om Tat Sat, particularly indicate the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedic hymns, the word Om is always found. One who acts without following the regulations of the scriptures will not attain the absolute truth. The conclusion is that the performance of charities, sacrifice, and penance must be done in the mode of goodness. Performed in the modes of passion or ignorance, they are certainly inferior in quality. The three words, Om Tat Sat, are uttered in conjunction with the holy name of the Supreme Lord, e.g., Om Tat Vishnoi, or Vishnu. Whenever a Vedic hymn or the holy name of the Supreme Lord is uttered, Om is added. This is the indication of Vedic literature. These three words are taken from Vedic hymns. Om eti ithad brahmano nadistam nama indicates the first goal. Then tatvamasi indicates the second goal, and sad eva samya indicates the third goal. Combined, they become Om Tat Sat. Formerly, when Brahma, the first created living entity, performed sacrifices, he spoke these three names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same principle holds by disciplic succession. So this hymn has great significance. Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one performs penance, charity, and sacrifice with these three words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities, which enables one to return home, back to Godhead. There is no loss of energy in acting in such a transcendental way. So as I alluded to before I started reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 17 is about the divisions of faith. Lord Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that everything in this material world can be divided or broken down into the three gunas, or the three modes of material nature. So firstly, you have sattva, which is the mode of goodness, then rajas, which is the mode of passion, and tamas, the mode of ignorance. Those are the three gunas, or the three modes of material nature. And if you read through chapter 17, you'll see that Lord Krishna, God himself, gives a perfect explanation of what those three gunas, or three modes of material nature, are. For my particular contribution to this episode of Bhagavad Gita, as it is, Bitesize Talks, I want to particularly focus on the last section of Srila Prabhupada's purport. Why? Because I love it. Yes, I love every part of the Bhagavad Gita, but I particularly have a preference, or I have a real love for the final section, which talks about the Bhagavad Gita itself. And what the Bhagavad Gita actually says in terms of what our focus should be on in life. Let me just remind you about that last section and what it said. Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one performs penance, charity, and sacrifice with these three words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. One of the many things that Srila Prabhupada taught us when he came to the West in the 1960s and through to the 1970s is that the essence of all Vedic literature is that we should always think of Krishna, always think of God, always think of the Lord, always put Krishna first. A life of genuine and sincere Krishna consciousness is about being less self-conscious and more Krishna conscious. How can we be conscious of Krishna 24/7? If you look at Srila Prabhupada's earthly ministry, that's a bit of a Christian term. If you look at Prabhupada's earthly ministry, particularly during those 12 years that he was in the West and traveling around the world, he taught all of his followers. He taught everyone who reads his books. He taught everyone who reads his lectures and listens to his talks that there are many ways that we can put Krishna first. The most obvious way is to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on a daily basis. The Vedic literatures say that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the Yuga Dharma for this age. It is the best way to be freed from this endless cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth. By chanting the names of the Lord, Krishna, Rama, and Hare on a daily basis, that is the best way. That is the best way to always think of Krishna, to be reminded of Krishna, and to always put Krishna first. Another way that Prabhupada taught us to put Krishna first was in reference to food stuff or eating. We don't often use that word, but Prabhupada taught us that before we consume something to eat, we should offer it to the Lord first. When we offer it to the Lord sincerely, with prayer, it becomes prasadam, which means the Lord's mercy. Before we consume something to maintain our physical bodies, we should offer our food or our bhoga to the Lord. It becomes prasadam, and then we can partake in the mercy of the Lord that way. Another way Prabhupada taught us or showed us or encouraged us to always put Krishna first was through the practice of deity worship. Many devotees of the Lord will visit a temple and will worship the deities or the forms of the Lord in that way. Many devotees will have an altar in their home, and so they will worship the Lord in that way, being reminded that Krishna is always with us, and we can focus on the Lord in that way. Another example of how we can put Krishna first is a lot of devotees, when they move into a new home, they're likely to perform a ceremony or a yajna, which purifies the home and invites the Lord into the home, putting the Lord first. One of the key things through the example set by Prabhupada during his earthly ministry was to show us and teach us how we can put Krishna first, how we can always focus on Krishna. And actually, if you look at most religious traditions, in any bona fide religious tradition, you will see this. You will see that if it's a genuine religion, if it's a genuine spiritual path, there will be a really strong focus on putting God first. Lord Jesus, if you read the New Testament, Lord Jesus taught that himself when he was being challenged by the Pharisees, who were a very kind of legalistic group of people. He was being challenged by the Pharisees, and the Pharisees really wanted to trick Jesus. Jesus was asked, what is the most important commandment? And Jesus said, the most important commandment is to put God first. So in any bona fide religious process, you will be taught and you will hear the teaching that putting God first, remembering God, and in the tradition that we follow, that's Krishna, the all-attractive one, that is the essence of what we should be focused on. So even though chapter 17 is a lot about Krishna teaching Arjuna about the three modes of material nature, I really wanted to focus and home in on this particular talk in reference to verse 23, in terms of those final words of Prabhupada's purport to this verse. Bhagavad Gita, this is Prabhupada speaking, Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done, should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one performs penance, charity, sacrifice with these three words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. And just to remind us of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, verse 23, Lord Krishna and his words to Arjuna, from the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, Brahman. They were uttered by brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.